This episode of Popcorn Poops is brought to you by Audible.com. Please visit audibletrial.com/popcornpoops for a 30-day trial of their audiobook subscription service. When you sign up, you'll even receive a free audiobook that's yours to keep whether or not you continue with Audible after your trial has expired. That's audibletrial.com/popcornpoops for your free audiobook. We are the Popcorn Poops.
Welcome to Popcorn Poops, the best married couple movie podcast / commentary track hybrid audio program on the internet. My name is Jessica, and beside me is my husband, Dustin.
I'm your husband, Dustin.
That was great.
I think that's going to be our new theme song. I'm just going to replace
okay.
the We Are the Popcorn Poops.
No, you could not do that.
All right, fine.
So how you doing, Dustin?
Pretty good. Not bad. We got some of my DVD collection back from my parents' house, so I've got some awesome, not Blu-rays, DVDs, old school, vintage, as the kids say.
DVDs are vintage now?
DVDs to watch. Some stuff that I haven't actually gotten to, but I've owned the DVD for years. Yeah, living in Japan, I had to separate myself from my DVD, and I definitely experienced some separation anxiety, and now that I'm back, I can reunite with my long-lost
Or you mean you can reunite with portions
media.
of your DVD collection?
Portions at a time.
Because your wife will not allow you to bring the entire thing to our tiny little apartment.
Who?
Who?
My wife?
Yeah.
Oh, that's you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Of course.
Great. As always, you can find us on our website at popcornpoops.com. Please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher. Oh, and you can follow our personal Twitter accounts, too. I'm at Jesse Casper.
And I'm at Dusty Cram.
And go ahead while you're at it and jump on our forums and start chatting on there, because that's fun.
We've got I think we're at about 15 whole members now.
That's awesome.
And they jump on there and talk about stuff sometimes. So why don't you increase them numbers for us? Go over there and sign up.
Every month we do a monthly theme, and this month, this is actually the last day of this month's theme, but this month we have been doing franchise originals, which means any movie that came out this summer that's part of a franchise.
Right.
Sequels, reboots, stuff like that. We're going back and we're watching the original version of those movies. This episode's movie is Sinister from 2012 by Scott Derrickson.
That's right.
If you're going to sync the movie with us, please press pause as soon as the BH Productions vanity card completely fades to black. And during this time, while you're trying to sync, I would have Dustin read you a review from iTunes or somewhere else. But
if only we were so lucky.
If only.
We don't have any iTunes or Stitcher reviews left to read on the show, so we are currently, as far as this segment of the show goes, in dire straits.
It's true. We're in dire straits.
It's up to you, dear listener. What did we decide the listeners were called? Pooplings. It is up to you, dear poopling.
You decided that.
Yes. Dear pooplings, please go to iTunes. If you have not done this yet, go to iTunes, go to Stitcher, either one of those, and rate us whatever you think we deserve. We really like 5 stars.
5 stars are pretty awesome.
5 stars are pretty good. But rate us what you think we deserve. Leave us a little review there, and we will read it on the show. Pinky swear.
Pinky swear?
Pinky swear. I know we can't.
Pretty
you
deep.
You can't really pinky swear like over a podcast.
Well, you can visualize it
over the information superhighway.
Yeah.
But yeah. So please do that. We would really appreciate it. We do have an announcement, though. We announced this last week. We've been announcing it on our social media, but it's very important that you listen carefully. September is Listener Request Month on Popcorn Poops. It's the very first Listener Request Month we've ever done. We've been at this a little over a year now. This is the first one we've done. We're very excited about it. If you would like to request a movie for us to cover on the show, please go to vocaroo.com. That's VOCAROO.com and record a quote-unquote voicemail. It's going to be like a voicemail to us. They have an in-browser interface that you can use to record your voice. Be sure to include your name, your location, of course, the movie that you want us to cover, and a reason. We want to know why you want us to cover, your pick. So if it's because the movie means something to you, or you just really like the movie, give us a little mini review. Try to keep it under 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, something like that, to keep it kind of short, because we are going to play the voicemail on the air. And then once you finish recording, you can share that recording via the in-browser interface with us to our email inbox at thepopcornpoops@gmail.com. You can also write in your request if you're shy, but voicemails will get priority, and we've already got enough voicemails now that if you've written in your request, then we're probably not going to do that movie. Sorry. So if you have a really good reason to do, for us to do your movie and you wrote in, go back, record your voice, send it in to us, because the deadline is coming up in just a couple of days. There are like 2 or 3 days left as of this recording for you to get that in. The deadline is 12 a.m. midnight on Thursday, August 27th. So as soon as it changes from August 26th to 27th, it's too late. So you got to get that in. We do have an announcement on our forums with more details and guidelines, but you can follow what I've just said, and that should get you where you need to go. But if you want to see the expanded guidelines, please go to our forums, and there is a post on that. So on with the show.
Okay, it is time to start the movie. Sinkers, press play at the beep after the countdown. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
And we're off.
It is time to watch this spectacular film.
Spectacular? Is it a spectacular? Is it spectacular, or is it a spectacular? Is there spectacle in this film?
Is there spectacle in this film? There's something in this film.
There are.
They definitely recorded something.
They recorded a few things, and on a few different mediums of motion picture. Actually,
it's true.
There's some interesting technique going on in this movie, but I would say that overall, just to get our basic opinions of this movie, our impressions of this movie right up front, so we can back them up as we go throughout the show. What do you think of this movie? What do you think of Sinister? It's kind of a part of a crop of new horror films that have been coming out the past few years.
Yeah.
That all kind of follow a pattern, so to speak.
I mean, I watch pretty much everything that comes out in horror.
More or less, yeah.
Pretty much everything. I mean, I'm sure I've missed some stuff just because it's difficult to find. But for the most part, if it comes out, if it gets any sort of trailers or publicity or anything, then I do my best to find it and watch it. And when compared to that vast pile of shit that I have to wade through, this movie definitely is, is better.
If you consume, I mean, to be fair, not that you're just calling things, indiscriminately piles of shit.
Right. Yeah,
if you watch all or most of any one kind of thing that is produced, if you consume that kind of media, yes, most of it's going to be garbage.
Right. Of course. And I mean, it's not even just watching stuff. That goes for anything that you do. If you listen to all the metal music that was ever made, then, I mean, probably most of it isn't going to be great.
You're only saying that because I've been playing the classic metal radio on iTunes recently.
Metal radio all the time for like 3 weeks now. I have nothing against metal. I didn't think I had anything against metal before the last 3 weeks
until
of my
you
life.
Listen to Anthrax.
Anyways, so yeah, in that I think that goes with anything, with any genre of reading or writing or music or whatever. If you consume a great deal of it, then you're going to see a lot of junk.
The thing is that this movie is pretty well regarded. Like,
right.
As far as this new crop of movies that have come out, and with that I mean like the James Wan movies, like The Conjuring, and of course the Saw films and things like that, and of course the Insidious movies. I think also James Wan. James Wan is kind of the it horror director right now, and I'm not his biggest fan.
No, not really.
But this is, of course, not by James Wan. This is a Scott Derrickson film. Scott Derrickson, of course, being responsible for... But what I know him best for is probably The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Mm-hmm. I like that movie.
Which I like fine because I think it's interestingly, of course, an exorcism film...
But also like a court procedural.
Yeah, it's a courtroom drama.
Yeah, it's kind of...
And I think that's kind of cool.
Kind of cool, yeah.
And also there's some genuinely creepy shit in that movie.
You can tell how cool he is because, number one, he has a Bennington College shirt on.
Do I spot some creepy dolls on that shelf?
There are some creepy dolls. I mean, little girls love creepy dolls, right?
Yeah, of course. What child doesn't like terrible, creepy dolls in their bedroom?
Yeah, he's got a Bennington College shirt. Bennington College is a private liberal arts college in Vermont. I'm assuming he has an MFA in writing because that's something that they have, and he's an author.
Notable alumni from Bennington College.
But it is a low-res program.
Notable alumni. Do you know any?
Do I know any from Bennington?
Yeah.
No. Do you?
Peter Dinklage.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's
yes,
cool.
Mr. Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, it is. There is an MFA in writing there, so maybe that's why he's wearing it. It's a low-res program, but it's one of the highly regarded low-res programs.
Ethan Hawke straight up has like the middle-aged writer accessory kit on.
He really does.
Complete with like a collared cardigan and a neck strap for his reading glasses and the liberal arts college t-shirt and moccasins. And yeah, he is fully decked out, fully equipped with everything you need to be. All right, he's even got patches on his. Who needs patches on the shoulder, or the elbows of your cardigan?
This scene right here, this just drops into why this movie is kind of a piece. And the thing is, like I said, compared to the vast majority of stuff that I watched, it's not a bad movie. I think there are some creepy moments in it, and I think it looks okay. Like, it looks good. But the soundtracks, the score is kind of cool.
I like the score mostly.
It's okay.
Yeah, there's some stuff in it that's pretty cool.
But scenes like this right here are the reason why this movie is just a bad movie. And this
I was listening to part of I didn't listen to the whole thing, but I was listening to the commentary, and Scott Derrickson, who also co-wrote this with C. Robert Cargill, they were actually, Scott Derrickson was talking about how this is like the peak of Cargill's writing powers, and how this scene is the best scene because
this
it gives,
scene?
yes, because it gives you everything you need to know about
God.
the character of Ellison. What's his last name? Ellison Oswalt. That's right, because C. Robert Cargill named him Ellison. Of course, he named him Ellison after Harlan Ellison, and he named him Oswalt after Patton Oswalt, just because.
Well, clearly none of these people went to the Bennington College MFA in writing program, because
I don't know. Maybe somebody did.
Because if they did, then I hope they would learn in that college that this is a mess of a scene. This is a disgusting slosh of dialogue where basically, we think our audience is dumb, and we're just like,
the whole movie thinks
the whole movie thinks the audience is dumb. But he just tells us everything.
It's the dialogue here. It's in this scene, which is already over, is this kind of vague, not vague dialogue that gets really overwhelming really quickly.
Yeah.
We get a truckload of exposition here that's been so painstakingly disguised as like this pseudo-naturalistic dialogue that by the time they spit out what they're actually, because they allude to something until they finally spit out what they're talking about, and then by the time they've done that, they've moved on to the next piece of information, which is all for the audience, because what you've got ultimately in this scene is two characters talking about things that they both
already know.
Both of them already know. So the writing in that, the difficulty that the writer has to overcome, the obstacle there, is to make that dialogue seem natural, even though both of the characters already have all the information that they're talking about. And that's really hard to do. And,
I don't think it was done.
Work.
I don't think it worked.
It's clear that he tried. Like, it's clear that it's not just as you know. It doesn't stoop to that level. But
I don't think it's much better than that. The only way we could have stuffed more exposition into that dialogue is if, like, we had the words hard-coded into scrolling across the scene or something.
Having to write dialogue like that is not an enviable task, but in that, it's just clunky as hell.
And I know sometimes it's unavoidable. I know sometimes you just don't have an option. You've just got to get to it, and you've just got to put the words into somebody's mouth. But that was so much information. It was so much information. And
that whole scene where he comes back into the house and he talks to his wife, and his wife, there's all this setup at the beginning where it's obvious that he's a true crime writer. He's been at this a while. His wife has issues with the fact that he's been moving them around a lot, and every time he moves them a couple of houses down from like a crime scene, and she asks them, did we move 2 houses down from the crime scene again? Is there a crime scene on the street? And he's like, no, I promise. Well, obviously,
okay.
They didn't move down from a crime scene.
That line specifically was one of the major problems I had with that scene. And the reason I had a major problem with that scene because of that line is because when the cop said, his ending line, his ending thing after this whole conversation about where we learn that his books haven't been doing well, that Kentucky Blood was 10 years ago and that was a pretty good book, but blah, 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 blah. And we get all this information. Right. At the very end, we finally have a bit of mystery where the cop just kind of gestures to the house and says, you know, this is in bad taste.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, hey, you did it. You did it right. You did the correct thing. That's nice. We, as the audience, are sitting here going, ooh, something bad happened in this house. I could have guessed that because of the movie. We are in a horror movie, and you know, the whole family hanging at the beginning of the scene, and we were just about to see the tree in the backyard. So if you hadn't guessed it already, you were about to be told it anyways. But still, they still ruined that moment and had the wife say that line of, you didn't have us move down the street from another crime scene, did you? As though we didn't get it.
Yeah.
As though we didn't already get it.
Right. It treats the audience like they're not in the know.
Right.
About what he's done. And I don't know. Like, I feel like we're supposed to be looking at that scene kind of from the wife's perspective, where, you know, he's promising her something and we're just like, okay, well, they didn't move, you know, he's moved into this place and we don't see any evidence of him doing work yet.
And I get that's going to be part of their story together, is that he's lying to his wife about this, and that's going to come out later on. But it just, the problem is that the placement of it took a moment that was actually well done in that dialogue where he's just like, this is in bad taste. And as the audience, we surmise what that means,
and you know, and
they ruin it.
I have a feeling that this is going to be, we're going to take this movie apart, because every scene that passes, I have criticisms for it, and I have notes about why every scene doesn't work, more or less. The last scene that we just passed, they sit down to, you know, Chinese food, Chinese takeout for dinner, and we get this whole thing about how, you know, the kid, the older son, what's his name, Trevor. Mm-hmm. Trevor's the older son, and he's worried about kids making fun of him at school for, you know, being the son of this once famous true crime writer, and he's going to find out. He wants to know what happened, you know, around here, because he knows that something had to have happened around here, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know why his wife doesn't know that. Like, I don't know why. I mean, she knows that he's here to work, right? That's the whole reason that they moved.
But she has so little interest in it that she doesn't even ask him what he's researching.
Yeah, like, she doesn't have the foresight to look up where the family lived or anything like that. Like,
I mean, from a married couple who...
I got totally sidetracked by another thing that I hadn't thought of before when saying that, so, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, from a married couple who, you know, I write, and I'm constantly writing, and if you hear so much about it that you're always having to tell me to shut up about it, like
I don't do that. I'm very supportive.
You are very supportive, but I mean, you hear so much about it. Yes. So I can't imagine being a writer and being married to someone and them having literally no idea what you're working on. And it being something so serious, like a crime in a town that you've moved to because of the crime. I'm just talking about fiction.
Yeah, it's not just a brainchild that you're birthing. It's like something based on
reality.
Real reality. Like, she can look it up. She could do the same research that he's done, you know?
So, whatever. So that's a mess. But yeah, that dinner scene.
The whole scene, I mean, there's a scene where they set up this idea that never follows through in the movie. And the idea is that, you know, the kids don't need to see the work that he's doing. You know, they're exposed to it enough anyway. That's a hilarious shot right here where he's got, like, the picture of the family on the board and a little Post-it note under the little girl that says, "Where are you?" It's like, come on, dude. Just in case he forgets who he's looking for, right?
There are so many things I want to say about that scene already, and we've already gotten so far from it.
But the point of the thing, just quickly, is they're not supposed to go in his office. The first rule is don't go in Dad's office, and they say it like this: what's the first rule? Don't go in Dad's office. And then the mom, Tracy, says, "And what's the rule?" pointing to Ellison, which is a really clunky turn of lines. Like, the rhythm of those lines is really weird, where it's like, what's the first rule? Don't go in Dad's office. And what's the rule? Lock the door.
Couldn't we say what's the second rule?
Yeah.
No, we're just going to keep that dialogue.
What's
okay,
rule
fine.
1B? I don't know, anything else, but then, you know.
But yeah, and we'll come back to them not going into the office and et cetera, et cetera.
Will we? Because they don't.
Yes, I know, and that's the reason we're going to come back to it. because that wound up being my biggest issue with this movie in the end. That's, I think, one of the biggest oversights this whole movie has, but we'll deal with that later. Backing up, first dialogue sitting down at the table. We aren't going to be able to eat out much. Why not? Says the kids. You know why, says the mom. But because we, the audience, don't know why, they proceed to tell us everything. Every single scene is like that in this movie. And I hate to be the person that's always just like exposition and dialogue all the time.
Can I jump to the next scene real quick? Just to talk about another thing that that this movie doesn't come back to. There's a scene following that where she talks about how she's supportive and all this stuff, but if it goes sour again, that's the word she put it in. If it goes sour again, then she will take the kids and she will leave him.
Yeah. It goes sour and she doesn't do that.
She never even comes close.
No.
Like they fight, they have a couple of throwdowns.
Yeah.
And she goes through this pattern where she will yell at him over something, and then the movie has to show us that she has calmed down from that, so it doesn't seem awkward that she's continuing to just live in this cycle. And, you know, you'll have a scene where she yells at them or yells at him and then calms down, and then another scene where she yells at him and calms down, and she never develops.
Never
changes at all. And now we're getting what is probably the best part of this movie and the horror part of the horror movie,
which are the films themselves.
Right. Actually shot on Super 8 film.
Oh, really?
Yes, actually shot on real Super 8 film to give it that look. Like the grain that we're seeing is real grain from Super 8 film, which is great. Awesome. Like I think that's wonderful that they did. They didn't just push it through After Effects and fake it. But yeah, I think that's the best that this movie gets is those films.
Yeah.
And then it kind of, for that step forward that it takes two steps back when the monster, so-called monster of this monster movie appears, the Mr. Boogie, which is just a laughable joke of a movie villain that literally jumps in front of the screen. Literally pops his head in front of the screen to scare the audience, just completely breaking the fourth wall.
Again, with like the way this movie thinks we're dumb, he writes down these questions and we look at them. Who is filming this? Where's Stephanie? Like, he writes down these questions and we watch him. We got that. We got that.
Right?
Well, I know, but like
just in case he forgets these simple ass questions, like,
right.
Who filmed the films? That's where's the little girl that I'm looking for?
I can't say that I've never taken some really stupid notes before.
Well, yeah, of course,
because I do. But as the audience, we got those. We got those ideas already, and we didn't need to see him write them down. But for the record, though, we don't answer that first question of who is filming this, who made the film, because we know that we know that the little girl records during the murders, but all that stuff where Stephanie was actually in the shots, are we supposed to presume that the boogeyman was holding a Super 8 camera?
I don't know. None of these kids have tripods. I know that's super pedantic, but like there's no tripods to be found, and these kids are supposedly like holding these cameras through all of these. It's all handheld footage
but
until they
step in front of the murders.
Right, that's only during the murders, and then later in the movie we see them actually step in front of the camera and do the put your finger over your lips thing, which is, I don't know how many movies have done that at this point. I honestly can't think of another, but it just seems like it's a cliche.
Yeah.
So if you know of any other horror movies where creepy kids make the shush, finger over the mouth, like especially ghost children.
I'm sure if I sat here for a second, I could think of some. It's a cliche image.
It's beyond a cliche. It feels like it's beyond a trope. It feels like a cliche at this point.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, though, is before the kids commit the murders, we know the kids are the ones holding the camera during the murders, but before that, we see shots of those same kids in the video and like someone sneaking around in the bushes and looking through the windows and stuff. I guess we're just supposed to presume that the boogeyman walks around with a Super 8 camera.
I guess so.
Because that's the only thing that we can get out of that.
Why a Super 8 camera? Was he like a failed filmmaker or something?
And like why through the ages continuing with this specific medium?
Yes, this specific time in like filmmaking technology.
Right.
Like if this is a guy that's like an ancient Babylonian deity or demon or something, at what point was he like, oh, Super 8?
Definitely that's the one I'm going with.
That is the format of the future.
It is.
So I'm just going to pick that and just stick with it. I don't know.
For forever.
I'm not sure. I do like the look of the films, though. I really do.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's the best part of the movie.
We can already see here that, like, him putting together the...
I'm glad he knows how to do this, by the way.
Him putting together the projector, reeling up the projector, has turned into... And it does more so over the course of the movie, because he does it several times. It's turned into what we refer to as a hip-hop montage. Do you know what a hip-hop montage is?
I can guess, but go ahead and explain it.
I mean, a hip-hop montage is basically where complicated action is simplified through like quick cuts depicting each step of the action in rapid succession. Filmmaker Bob Fosse probably was the first to use the technique as we know it today in a movie called All That Jazz from 1979. But he was inspired by the fast cutting and the jump cuts used in the French New Wave cinema, film noir. Film noir and French New Wave, of course. Since then, you can see examples of like the hip hop montage thing in films from Darren Aronofsky. He did it in Pi. He did it in Requiem for a Dream. Edgar Wright has done it in, I think, all of his movies. Paul Thomas Anderson's done it once before, and Guy Ritchie, Guy Ritchie's done it as well. And it's cool. Like, I like it. I think the first time they tried in this movie that we just saw, I think it's a little clunky. There are a couple of jump cuts in there where it's like, obviously they've only trimmed out like 6 frames in the same shot, and you're like, okay, that's kind of dumb, but they're trying. Some of these horror films that he's not horror films, but they are horrific. Some of these murder films that he's watching are actually quite disturbing.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
very disturbing.
Yeah, they are. And that's why...
And watching him react to them
watching him try to take another drink of his drink and there be no more drink left and kind of have a shudder about it. Yeah, I think that this stuff is done very well. And this is, I'm sure, the reason why people go to this movie and say that this is a well-done horror movie, that this is a good horror movie. I think that this part of the movie is great. It's just unfortunate that the rest of the movie isn't, because all the stuff that surrounds it is just like an afterthought.
Yeah.
It's like they had this really cool idea to show these creepy murders on Super 8 film and have some guy going through and writing about them, and then they just were like, that's enough.
That is the seed of the idea right there. The seed of the idea is a guy finds a box of Super 8 films that are basically snuff films, and he has to figure out who shot these films, why they shot these films, and it's kind of like a murder mystery that turns into like this supernatural horror thing, and that's fine. I think that's a great nugget of an idea, but this film kind of shows us that they never got past the nugget. Like, it's still kind of a nugget surrounded by a lot of fat, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Can we talk about something that... one thing we didn't say when we were discussing the parent-child meeting at the dinner table.
Yes.
One of the things we didn't talk about is how they're horrible parents. How...
They are kind of... I'm wondering if that's the point, though. I don't think the movie fleshes it out well enough for me to say for sure, but I mean, Ellison's arc in this movie is definitely surrounded, the crux of his arc is that he is a selfish person.
Yes, and I totally can see that and agree with it, but I think that that maybe the movie is agreeing with the parents' choice, though, on trying to keep the kids away from this information.
Right.
Where we've had this conversation about keeping the door locked. We don't want the kids to know anything about what you're researching, anything about what you're studying. And the little boy straight up says to his mom, I'm gonna hear it at school anyways. I'm going to hear what he's researching at school, whether or not you tell me.
And you know what?
And the parents' response, the mom literally responds to this by saying, are you listening to this? To her husband. Let's at least make sure your office stays locked. And I'm like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is not about, we just said that it doesn't matter whether or not the office is locked.
He might be 12, but he's right.
Right.
He has experience. He's heard it before. He's going to hear it again.
And he's got Google.
Exactly. Yes, he's got Google and he's 12 years old, and
He's gonna figure it out. If he doesn't hear it from kids at school,
yes,
he's gonna figure it
in
out.
between looking at internet porn as a 12-year-old.
Right. Then he's going to
figure
look
it
it up.
out. Exactly.
He's going to take a pause from the porn and he's going to look this stuff up. And his friends are going to tell him anyways about what happened. So, and the
But
parents,
they don't address
the parents
it. No,
just
no.
ignore that.
They don't address it at all.
This
and they
is
don't,
one of the creepiest shots in the whole movie.
I think this is very
by the way.
creepy.
The
This whole
the box
sequence right
scene.
here it bothers me quite a bit.
Yeah, it's upsetting. The lighting and stuff, where the lighting on the box is kind of like that dim kitchen lighting that you expect, and just the subtle movements of the box sitting there on the floor. And the kid, I think, does a great job with the body horror here too.
Yeah, I agree.
It's upsetting.
The yeah,
I like
really,
the dad's
it's
reaction
really
too,
upsetting.
like the way that he has to pause a moment before he realizes that this is his son,
and
just
not some monster
screaming.
in a box.
Yeah,
This really bothers me because I have personal experience with night terrors. His son here, Trevor, is experiencing what you would call a night terror, which is a real thing. Like, it's a real thing. I don't know if people out there think that it doesn't exist.
I mean,
you said something about
right. I always kind of felt like it was something that was used in movies and books kind of in an exaggerated form, that it was just nightmares and kids like still being like kind of half awake from their nightmares.
I think it's something like 1 to 5 or 6% of kids between the ages of like 3 and 12 experience
so it's really
night
small
terrors.
then. It's a really small
It is really
percentage.
small, but I didn't experience night terrors, but my brother did. And of
Yeah,
course,
I've
my
heard
younger
these
brother
stories.
did. And I was of course around for that. And it was really strange because he wouldn't have night terrors in his own bed. It almost always happened when he fell asleep on the couch.
Maybe something about like the association of being in a different place or something.
I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely, when they wake up, or when he woke up, at least in my experience with him, when he woke up screaming, and screaming like the scream of a person who is in genuine, real fear for their life.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
And it's awful because, my parents ran in and they pick him up and they hold him and they try to console him. And I mean, it is the definition of the word, inconsolable. Absolutely inconsolable. And they hold this child while this child is screaming like they are afraid that they're about to die. And that's what it feels like. And I'm sitting there. I mean, everyone feels helpless in that situation, but I'm sitting there as just a few years older than my brother when he was like 4 or 5 when it was happening. And it really bothered me. So watching this movie and seeing this kid experience these night terrors, it's not like the kid delivers an incredible performance or anything, but
I think he does fine though.
he does fine. His physical performance is actually quite good there. But it kind of brings me right back to that. And I don't think it may not be to the movie's credit, but it might just be that I'm meeting the movie halfway there. So it really helps,
Well, no, but I mean, for someone who hasn't experienced it, I think it's really unsettling. That
So it
scene
works for you,
Oh
too.
yeah, it totally works for me too. And I totally get like, just God, being a parent and having to watch that with your kids. I can't imagine that. That's got to be awful for the parents too. I'm sure it was horrible for you as like a sibling,
it was
but
pretty bad.
But for the parents too, to feel like you
Well,
can't
it wasn't-
do anything for your kid.
I wasn't expected to try to console my brother, but my parents trying to console him and get him out of it and wake him up. I mean, that's really what it is you got to wake up, right? That was the hard part, is just like, what can you do? What can you do when you feel absolutely helpless and you're trying to help?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like life threatening or anything like that. Of course, it just feels like, what am I supposed to do? You feel helpless.
Yeah.
This is probably the most disturbing of the films. The ones it's labeled Pool Party. What year?
Pool
Is it
Party
66?
is 66.
Pool Party 66, in which the family is duct taped to pool chairs or lawn chairs, and pulled into the
And they're
pool.
like cement blocks or something on the bottom of the pool chairs.
And they drown in the pool. And they did it with stunt actors, but they actually did it. And they had to shoot the scene, and they had to have people standing by to like jump in the pool and get them out as soon as they were done, as soon as they cut. And the thing is that not only are you doing something that is, you're actually tying people to lawn chairs and pulling them into a pool so that they are helpless and they are counting on someone else to pull them out of that situation. You're doing it with antiquated film technology, and you're shooting this thing on Super 8. Mm-hmm. So if something goes wrong and they don't get the shot, they have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I mean that's pretty rough.
Pretty intense.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
It would have been pretty scary. Why does it burn here?
Because he stops it. Because he stops the film.
But why does that make it burn?
Because the film, that projector reel, when it stops, when it goes in front of the lamp, it's going fast enough that it doesn't heat up. But if you stop the reel, the lamp continues to heat the same spot on the film, which is right in front of the lens, incidentally, because that's where the lamp shines, obviously. So if it gets too hot, it burns up.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an upsetting scene. I think the disturbing films in this are great. I mean, I've said it before, and I'm sure I'm going to repeat myself a few more times. But
I feel like we have to praise something in this film because it's not like this isn't like a god awful movie or anything.
No,
it's
not.
This isn't junk. I don't think. I think that there's effort here, obviously, and there's some craft here. I do like the way the movie's shot.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
There's a lot of darkness in the movie, and there's like the rooms like this there's a nice mix of cold and warm light in every room, even when it's dark, that I think is really interesting. It keeps this movie from looking like every other movie of this ilk,
Yeah.
I'm thinking mostly of the films of James Wan, honestly, but because his movies they always seem really, really cold to me. And I get that that's the point, but I prefer color. I like colorful films.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is a colorful film. And it helps that like every room in this house is painted a different color.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
Yeah.
But and here we have some parenting going on here, or lack thereof. The mother responding to Trevor having drawn a picture of the family hanging with a permanent marker on his whiteboard at school.
Yeah, I mean, they are terrible parents, aren't they?
They are, and I mean, this scene. I'm talking about this scene, and this scene really isn't showing them being that terrible.
It's not
parents.
showing them being that terrible. I mean, but the scene, there was a couple of scenes ago when she left to take them to school. Not counting the time-honored tradition of the 60-second American breakfast.
Right, yes.
Which, that's not their fault as parents. It's the movie's fault for editing.
Yes.
But when she leaves, right in front of the kids, she says, "Have fun with your murder victims."
Yeah, right?
How fucked up is that?
That is
You're trying to keep this away from your kids, yes?
But then you say stuff like that. And my whole thing that I keep going back to is they just need to tell the kids in a kid-friendly fashion what's going on. Or at least the older kid, the one who's going to find out anyways. I mean, give him some idea of something, well, there were some people who were murdered here, and there's a little girl who's still missing. So, I'm here to try and find out where she was.
See, this is a pattern right here. Do you see this scene? This scene immediately follows a scene where she yells at him, and she comes in his office just so the audience knows that she's cooled down. She does this every single time.
Oh, really?
Every time there's a blow up in this movie, every time she loses her temper and yells at him, immediately after there's a scene where she calms down and she shows like some warmth to him. And it just keeps her static. She is a static character. She never evolves. She never changes.
Yeah.
And she never makes good on that promise that she's going to leave him, which would, at least give her some modicum of growth, or at least the appearance of growth, right? But no, we don't get that. I do want to talk about I missed this before, but the little girl Ashley in this movie, she paints on her walls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And her parents are kind of like, it's fine. Their parents are kind of artistic and progressive, a little hippy dippy, and they have a rule. There's so many fucking rules in this movie too.
There are a lot of rules.
There are a couple of scenes where they talk about the rules, and one of the rules is paint only goes in her bedroom, not outside the bedroom.
Okay,
right?
and the way that was another moment when they were first moving in. This was right when the cop scene was about to happen, so we didn't talk about it. But when they were first moving in, right in that scene, that was another one of those moments where it's like, oh, they're cool. The daughter, we go in and we see the daughter is painting on her bedroom wall, and the father doesn't react to it. He walks in the room and he doesn't say anything about it.
Right.
He just watches her paint, and then they have a conversation about something else, about putting up boxes or something. And then all of a sudden at the end of it, he's like, by the way, what's the rule? Paint only goes in the bedroom.
Right.
That's right. And I'm like, and he goes, and where doesn't it go? Anywhere else. And I'm just sitting here going, did you think that I was sitting here freaking out? Did you think I was going, why is the girl painting on her wall? Isn't that her father? Isn't he going to reprimand her right now? Why isn't he reprimanding? Like, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it.
That's
I
all,
fucking
that's all
got
it took. When he walks in and doesn't react, that's all I
Right.
need.
I get it. Oh, okay. They're a cool artsy family and a creative expression and fine, whatever. Like, I got it.
And
I
it's-
totally got it.
Okay, ideally allowing your kids to paint on their own walls and create like a safe creative space where they can like decorate their room the way they want to is fine ideally. It's fine ideally. And in fact, like I kind of like the idea of it. But I used to draw on the walls of my basement. I had a basement with like Brico block walls, and I wasn't supposed to draw on the walls, but because it was in the basement, I thought I could get away with it. So I tried to draw on the walls, and I started drawing something, right? I started drawing something that I was really taking seriously and I thought looked good. And I either messed it up or I lost interest in it or I just got a wild hair in my ass. I'm not sure. But then I just destroyed the drawing and I scribbled all over the wall and it looked like a hot fucking mess. And as soon as I was done, I took a step back and looked at the wall and said, well, that's ruined. And I walked the fuck away.
Because you didn't care.
Because I didn't
anymore
care. Exactly.
And you were pretty serious as a kid about wanting to be an artist and stuff. Like, that was something you were into.
I was much younger when I did this. But, you know, that's what happens. A kid starts drawing something in earnest and then makes a mistake or loses interest or just changes their mind about the goal of the piece, you know, their artistic piece, and they'll start scribbling wildly, just making a mess. And what begins as a creative expression, what you would call creative expression, quickly devolves into destructive expression.
Right. We can presume that's at least a likely possibility.
At least it will become that without guidance. You know,
Right.
without guidance, that's what it's going to become.
And that's my big issue with the way they go about this whole thing.
Exactly. Without that guidance, her walls would look like dog shit. And you would walk into her room and say, wow, this is a fucking dump. It would not look like, oh, what a cool, colorful, creative space for a child. These are obviously children's drawings and they're so cool and colorful. It's like, no, it would look like doo-doo.
Well, the thing is like I see the crayon thing, and like when you talk about that, and I think, oh, that's cool. That's something I would do. Like as a parent, I could see myself letting my kids draw on the wall with crayons, but with crayons, we're talking crayons here.
Right.
Because when we're talking paint, I mean, we walked into the little girl's room and she's just straight up, she has her little smock on, but besides her smock, she's just straight up can of paint and paintbrushes and just painting on the walls. There's nothing on the floor. There's nothing covering her bed right next to where she's painting or her dresser. I mean, even adults drip. Even adults drip when they paint.
Put down plastic or newspaper or something.
Right, because paint is messy. And imagining just allowing a child to have free-for-all with no rules painting in their bedroom, it not only would look like a mess on the walls because of what your state is saying, like the just destructive nature of children, but let's just presume that she is an incredibly mature child and that
I would say that for a child, destructive expression comes before creative expression. Creative expression is something that you grow into. So allowing a child to do that without guidance, I think it's an inevitability, right?
But let's just presume that she is not the kind of child that, because I mean, there were kids like me. I never cut my Barbie doll's hair. I was really serious about that.
That's a thing. But that's a thing that happens,
right?
yeah.
And I never did that. But so let's presume that she's just the kind of kid who she would never just go crazy on the wall. She is only going to paint her horses, and that is it. But regardless of that factor is the factor that her room would just be a mess because there would be paint all over everything because there's no guidance from the parents whatsoever. Bad parents.
Speaking of the horses, they aren't horses, they're unicorns. because C. Robert Cargill wanted them to be unicorns as his own like creative, not even creative, his own little reference to Blade Runner.
What?
Like the Blade Runner, the unicorn origami in Blade Runner, right? And he wanted them to be unicorns painted on the wall because he likes Blade Runner. And when the director, this was in the commentary, when the director Scott Derrickson asked him why they belonged in this movie, why unicorns, Cargill just laughed at him. That's all he could do was just laugh because it was just something he wanted to do because he liked Blade Runner.
See, this is what I'm talking about
they have no purpose.
Not following through with symbolism, not following... Like, there's no depth to this movie. When we look at another movie...
They have no purpose metaphorically or symbolically or anything. I mean, C. Robert Cargill, and this will explain a lot, C. Robert Cargill started his career, or at least started, as far as I know, as a film fan and a film critic writing for Ain't It Cool News, which is kind of famously like early internet 1.0 film news site, a scoop site really, writing under the pen name Massa Worm. And I used to read Ain't It Cool? I used to read Massa Worm's articles, and I used to read, I read all of those guys like Moriarty and Quint's still writing for him and all that stuff. And they were enthusiasts. They were full of zeal. They were even overzealous film fans, and they were writing about movies because they just loved movies so much, and they didn't really have like formal educations in film theory or film criticism or anything like that. They were just like, we just fucking love Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese and George goddamn Lucas and just that kind of thing. And that's fine. Like I would say that in my heart of hearts, I'm that film fan. Like I'm that kind of guy, right? But when that kind of film fan and that kind of film quote unquote critic writes a film, that's what you get sometimes is just a random reference to Blade Runner.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. What movie did we do last? Mad Max?
Mad Max.
I'm trying to think of a better example even than Mad Max. But I mean, a lot of times when we do really, really great movies on Popcorn Poops and you pull up something and you're just like, oh, what's that random book that's sitting on their shelf right there that we see for like not even a whole second. And then you look it up and you realize, oh my God, that's a reference to a really, like a movie that has just tons of that is The Matrix. The Matrix is just full, almost to a fault, is just completely
packed to the gills with metaphor and symbolism and everything, everything. Because
it's all about the themes that they're trying to address about the psychological and sociological and philosophical issues that they're debating in that movie. And so everything has a meaning, like every little thing.
And if you pick apart something like The Matrix and you say, you can find stuff in there where you're like, oh, well, that obviously comes from William Gibson, but it still has a place in the message of the film, right?
And the thing about movies don't have
the subtext. I mean the subtext. But go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
The movies don't have to be. You don't have to have a ton of that stuff to be a good movie, and I think you can even overdo it. But I feel like when you specifically put something in the movie as a reference, and it's a reference, and it has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. I mean, that's just the perfect example of a movie that is shallow. It's a shallow movie. We have references and symbolism that, for instance, we just saw another one that I had intended to kind of complain about on here.
This one right here, what we're seeing right now.
No, this is just stupid. This is just, again, telling the audience that the movie thinks you're stupid. So, look, guess what? The barbecue one, it said barbecue because that was the one where they burned in the car. Did you get it? It's so punny. Right? Now, that's what we're doing right now is I guess he thought we hadn't figured this out yet.
It was fine before. Like when he puts on the film reel that says barbecue, I'm like, okay, barbecue, because they get burned. I get it. And then the film just has to tell you right out that that's exactly what it is when he sees This is another thing. The movie just fades out some scenes because it doesn't know how to end others.
Right, yeah.
It does that a lot through. It feels like a commercial break.
It's like, okay, we'll be right back.
This is where the commercial comes in when this plays on TBS inevitably.
And
right?
it's like, ba-da-da-da-da, and you've got it. Okay,
Right,
that's where we are right now in the movie. Great. McDonald's commercial.
That's also a great way to end any scene is just have your character fall through the attic.
Yeah,
just
and we'll just
because-
come back to it later.
And it was almost as funny as when Chevy Chase did it in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Almost. But yeah, so another bit of symbolism, not symbolism, that's what I'm going to call it, is we just saw it. We saw the second half of it. We had the scorpion before, and then we had the snake. And basically, like, whatever you can pull up really fast in your brain, like, why would there be a scorpion, a snake, in a horror movie, and it's symbolism? It's like basically whatever you just thought of is, it's snakes are scary. Snakes. I mean, snakes are like such a basic form of like representations of evil. Of course, it goes back to biblical stuff or even beyond.
It comes up. It comes up later in the movie, which means the movie's smart. Didn't you know that if there's a callback, it's automatically a smart movie?
Oh, what? Because we see a picture of a snake and a scorpion in some of the drawings of the demon Babylonian god. Yeah, no, that's why they did it.
Here's the thing, though.
Surface level. Here's
the thing, though. Scorpion is interesting because it's venomous. So you would assume that the snake is also a venomous snake, but the snake is in fact a king snake, which is a non-venomous snake. And the way you can tell that with this old rhyme that you can say that says, red on yellow, dangerous fellow, red on black, friend of Jack.
Oh.
And it was red on black.
So you
king
looked
snake.
up what kind of a snake it was.
Yes.
I started to do that, and then I just didn't care anymore.
Non-venomous. So like the movie doesn't even like there's not even that much thought put into it where it's like, well, they have to be venomous creatures that dwell close to the earth. Mm-hmm. Like demons.
No,
I don't know. Like there's a biblical reference that you could make there where in the Garden of Eden, when God strikes down Satan and he's left to crawl the earth on his belly and he can't have legs anymore. It's like, well, you have to crawl on the earth on your belly. So yeah, let's put a couple of creatures in here that like live close to the earth and are venomous and we might say evil or scary or whatever the fuck. But they only go halfway there. Half measures.
No, it was definite half measures. It was definite like symbolism, throw a snake onto the screen. Okay, we got it. Okay, now why was it a snake? Well,
good enough.
The demon in some of the pictures he's shown with a snake because snakes are evil. Like if you really care about why snakes are thought to be evil, you can go back to the Anaconda episode and you can listen to all of the unnecessary research I did
on how
snakes
are absolutely intelligent creatures and are malicious killers.
Oh yes, well I was referring to the research I did where I then explained like way more than the movie deserved about why snakes have a bad rep in mythology. But I'm not going to do that again because it was it was unnecessary then and it's like way unnecessary now. But basically this movie was just like snakes are scary. And people think they're evil, so throw a snake on the screen and a scorpion too, because scorpions are also scary, and that's fine. Whatever. Again, surface level. So when you want to tell me that this movie is a great movie, that it's a good horror movie, I'm gonna respond with saying, yeah, there are some scary moments in this movie. There are a couple of they're really about like how many films are there? How many of the film? 5?
5 altogether, I
think there are 5 films altogether. The 5 films are creepy, and the one shot of the kid coming out of the box backward as he has his night terror is creepy. And maybe the scene with the daughter at the very end when she's walking down the hall with like the blood on the walls. Maybe that's kind of it's kind of it. Even if it's not creepy, it's a cool shot.
It's got like the found footage Blair Witch kind of thing going on.
But it's a cool shot though. Like it's a cool. I think it was one of the ones that was in the trailer. This was one of those movies that
it's certainly not offensive.
No. But for me, that's about it. Like those things out of this movie are the things that make it an enjoyable horror movie to watch. But the rest of it is so shallow, surface level, and poorly executed.
Like, here's the thing: like this, as far as like his character is concerned, like I know we're supposed to care about him as a character, but I feel like for again, for every step forward the movie takes, it takes 2 steps back, in that we're supposed to see, in the fact that he's watching old VHS tapes of like recordings of interviews that he was on TV and stuff like that. We're supposed to see that he once was, this really great, guy, this idealist, even that, the interviewer asks him in that last scene, is it about the money or is it about the justice? Is it about the fame or is it about the justice? And his response is, the justice. Of course it's about the justice. And you're like, well, was he a liar or was he really an idealist? You're supposed to think he's an idealist. But at this point, it's like, not only is he not that person, but he's an unrepentant narcissist for watching these videos of him on interview shows. Yeah. It's kind of ridiculous. And this is a hilarious scene to me too, where he's watching this old footage.
I love your rendition of this scene.
Kind of digitized this footage by filming like the projector screen, and he's got it on his computer so he can pause it and scroll through it without burning up the projector reel, which is smart. Like I'm glad that he's a character that can figure shit out, right?
And we saw him doing the Google research, so.
But he's got these stick figure drawings that he found in the attic of the different murders, and he's got them side by side with the film footage of the murders happening, and I can just imagine him, like, in his mind, he's looking at the stick figure of Mr. Boogie, and then looking back at the film footage and going, yeah, that's him. That looks like him.
Pretty close.
I think that's the one. I think, that's probably him. And he does it with all of them. He pulls up all the pictures, like he's got the barbecue picture up.
Okay, but here,
and he's looking through and he's like, oh, it's
definitely. That's it. Go back. Was that Mr. Boogie?
Was that him?
Was that? No. Let me look at the stick figure again.
Oh my God! And this zoom right.
Okay, now this is the biggest lie in the whole movie. This moment right here is the biggest lie in the entire movie. We're watching the barbecue car tape. This is Super 8 film from '79.
Oh my God!
That he projected onto a bed sheet and then recorded with his handy cam. Hooked up to his computer and plays that recording of an old recording through his laptop and is able to not only pause it with clarity, but then zoom in and get a decent picture of Mr. Boogie.
I mean, you don't have to take it from me as someone who, like, at this point, I can actually say this as someone who works with video for a living, like it's my job. You don't even need to take my word for it. You can probably just know, like, intuitively, that that's the most ridiculous fucking shit ever.
Well, and I mean, we do that all the time in like crime dramas and stuff where it's all like, oh, well, let me zoom in on this image and then I can see the picture of whatever, right? But this is really silly. It's Super 8 film. Come on.
It's only marginally better in like science fiction worlds where, people are sitting in front of a computer and looking at security footage and saying, enhance image, zoom in, enhance, enhance. And then you end up with a picture that's super sharp and you can see it, even though, I mean, I don't care how far in the future this is supposed to be. Like, I can only suspend my disbelief so far.
Well, it doesn't matter how far in the future this is supposed to be. His laptop isn't going to be able to...
not this. I'm talking about the sci-fi version of that. Okay. Like, this is just... It's unforgivable.
No, it's completely unforgivable. It's so stupid. I mean, you can see the sweat glistening off of Mr. Boogie's face in this picture that he's able to print off. It's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
The note I've got for that is impressive zoom feature you've got there on QuickTime.
Impressive.
Do you want to talk about the deputy?
Yeah, Mr. So-and-so.
Deputy so-and-so.
So unimportant that he doesn't get a name.
Who is actually, like, and that's another thing. This movie sets up characters that are ostensibly supposed to change. They set up the kids to change because they have a whole rule about not going into the office and seeing the movies and allowing those kids to develop. They never come back to it. They set this whole thing up where the wife is going to leave him if he doesn't, keep this from going sour. She never leaves him. And then they introduce this deputy character that's going to help him because he's kind of a fan. Mm-hmm. And he is so unimportant that they actually never give him a name. He continues to call him Deputy So-and-so throughout the entire movie.
That's the name that shows up on his phone when he answers the phone at the end of the movie.
And he's just credited as Deputy, I think. He doesn't have a name at all. Mm-hmm. That's how much the ancillary characters in this movie don't fucking matter. They don't.
That's the kind of thing that you do as like a writing exercise when you're trying to do something, that's a little bit different or a little edgy or something. So like you don't name your side characters because you're trying to show that the protagonist is insular or something, like that they're selfish or whatever. I guess this is one of those moments where I'm going to go out on a limb for the movie and say, well, maybe they were trying to show how selfish he is by not giving these other characters names. You even mentioned like how the names of his family members are really boring names in comparison to his.
Like his wife's name is Tracy and his son's name is Trevor and his daughter's name is Ashley and his name is Ellison.
And so like there's a part of me that wants to go.
And these scenes right here too, going back to like the kids never actually seeing the films, setting that up and the kids never actually seeing the films. He walks in, like they set this thing up where he starts walking into his office and the films are playing on their own. And immediately, the thing that you should be thinking about as the audience member is, oh shit,
the kids.
His kids are watching this.
Shit.
His kids are watching it, aren't they? Oh my God, he's going to walk in and his kids are going to be watching these awful movies. And they never are.
Well,
it's just, they're playing by themselves. Isn't that spooky?
First, going back though, I want to finish what I was saying about like his name and stuff, where there's a part of me that wants to give some justification. The analytical part of me wants to sit there and go, oh, okay, they're trying to do something a little different here by using the names as a way to show but the thing is that this movie is so shallow on the surface. The unicorns mean reference to Blade Runner.
Oh, do you want to hear what Deputy So-and-so is apparently a reference to? According to C. Robert Cargill.
I don't know, Scary Movie 2 or whatever.
No. According to C. Robert Cargill on Twitter, as of seriously 3 days ago, he said this: Deputy So-and-so is his little tiny reference to Clint Eastwood's The Man with No Name.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Why? What does that movie have to do with this movie?
I have no fucking idea.
Nothing.
He's not even like a deputy in those movies.
Shallow references, surface level references. They don't mean anything. So when I'm supposed to sit here and say and back up the movie and be like, the reason why he calls him Deputy So-and-so is because he's so selfish and we're supposed to get that. No, I don't buy that. I don't buy anything about that because I don't think this movie is smart enough for that.
I had the same exact thought. I was thinking, are they trying to highlight the fact that he is so absorbed in his own world and he is such a selfish person that the movie itself is constructed as a way to show you that everyone around him has painfully ordinary names. Some of them don't even have names. Deputy So-and-so is a good example.
Right. But no, I don't
and
think...
he is like the center of his own universe, and that's how it's supposed to be painted. But you're right. It's hard to read that into a movie that is otherwise so shallow. You're absolutely right about that.
And I want to go back and basically discuss the same thing with the kids walking into the bedroom. But first, before I do that, let's watch this scene right here, right, where he goes and there's a dog. Dog? Where does the dog come from? Is it a demon dog?
Here's the thing. We've had a scorpion, we've had a snake, and both of those
now we have a scary dog.
Both of those are referenced in illustrations that he gets later in the movie of the demon Bughuul who has a name.
Is there a dog in those pictures? No. Well, I don't think it's supposed to be an evil dog though, because we're supposed to realize that the dog is barking at the evil kids. See, right here. The dog is actually growling and stuff at the kids, not at him. Why doesn't he pick up his bat now that the dog runs away? Dog runs away and then he runs away. Okay. Why doesn't he go get the bat when the dog... But anyways, where'd the dog come from? What was that point? Was that a neighbor's dog?
I don't know.
Why dog? Why dog? Just because. And he's also going to make a reference to Cujo in maybe the next scene.
I would
just avoid doing that.
Okay. Here's the thing. The Cujo reference that's coming up, it's in this scene, but they're having another argument here But, this argument will inevitably end with her apologizing to him so that she, is kept from changing.
Oh, yeah. It's in the hallway, not in a different scene,
Actually, the
location.
Cujo reference comes after he makes the In Cold Blood reference, but he's about to make it. So he actually says something about this being, he says he's really close to something, and he thinks that this might be his quote-unquote In Cold Blood. That's what he says, which, of course, is a reference to Truman Capote's 1966 novel about the murder of a farmer and his family in Holcomb, Kansas, which is absolutely seminal, a seminal work in true crime, like right next to Helter Skelter. Like it's But he does make a Cujo reference, and the Cujo reference I had a note on is, initially I said, it's okay that he makes a Cujo reference because we've established this on Popcorn Poops, that if you make a reference to another piece of literature, it better not be better, a lot better at least, it better not be better than the thing that you are.
Right, yeah.
Because you're simply going to, Twister is the first thing that comes to mind, but there's been other things. You don't tell the audience about things or remind them of things that are better than the thing that they're watching.
Right, exactly. Because then they're going to go, oh, why am I watching this
right.
instead of that?
I wrote that initially, and then by the time I got to the end of this movie, I realized that I like this less than Cujo.
Oh, then the movie Cujo?
Yeah.
I've never seen the movie Cujo. I've read, I don't remember if I read all the book. It was one of those books that I read when I was a kid, when I was really way too young to read that kind of stuff. But my parents had like an open book thing with me, so.
Yeah, Cujo is not a good movie, but it's a lot more fun than this, and certainly a lot more entertaining.
Well, I was just saying, as an author who's not selling, making Cujo references, it's that was kind of the same thing that I was saying.
I think Cujo's goals are a lot lower than this movie. I think this movie has some relatively high goals that it doesn't even come close to meeting. And that's also how, like, I don't know if I've talked about how I critique movies or how I judge whether or not a movie is successful at what it does or if it's a good movie or a bad movie. But I mean, just really simply, I try to identify what the movie's goals are and whether or not the movie met those goals. And then I have to basically reconcile that with my personal enjoyment of the movie, in its attempt to reach those goals. So that's kind of how I
love right here how all of a sudden Deputy So-and-so isn't dumb anymore. How suddenly he has a degree in criminology and...
He's Batman, basically.
Like, he's serious now. Yeah. I mean, he still says a couple dumb things, but, like, now he's serious stuff.
I can't decide whether or not I love or hate his performance. Because it goes back
Deputy So-and-so?
Yeah, it goes back and forth from being, like, really naturalistic to being really awkward and trying like he's being really naturalistic. Like, I feel like there's a better performance in there if they'd just gotten a couple more takes out of him in some of these scenes. I think the scene where they're sitting on the couch later on is maybe the perfect example of that, where he seems really nice and naturalistic, and his performance is really solid. And then there's this trucking shot that kind of moves across, and it's a longer shot, and he has to continue the performance and keep it up, and they can't really cut around it. And his performance starts getting into the realm of, okay, you guys this is like maybe your second take and you're stepping on each other's lines. And, the director's like, oh, that's great. It sounds supernatural, like people, talking over each other, as we do. But it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of strange. This movie, with the exception of not Professor, he just said Professor, and I heard it in my ear, of Deputy So-and-so, Professor. So you could say Professor So-and-so because he's just about as useful. Deputy So-and-so, the first scene that he's in, I got about halfway through it before I realized that it's supposed to be comedic.
Oh, yeah.
This movie takes itself super fucking seriously.
Yeah.
Right? Super
The whole
serious.
thing with the squirrels and stuff.
Yeah, all
where
that kind of stuff.
Where they were talking about, like, the squirrels in the attic and whatever.
And I get halfway through that scene thinking, man, this is a weird fucking scene.
And then you're like, oh, it's supposed to be funny.
Like, oh, okay, I get it.
Okay, I guess it's kind of funny.
Air quotes, comedy, and air quotes. I just sprained my fingers because I was doing air quotes so hard. Fucking hard.
Here is an issue I have right here in the movie. This is a big issue. why are we just watching this tape right now? Or not tape.
It feels kind of late for that, right? Like he's done so much research, and
he has little pieces of yarn strung to other pieces of yarn. He's been at this for a couple weeks.
He's digitized. I say quote unquote digitized. It's not really. He's filmed, or rather recorded, videotaped all of the films from the projector, so he could put them on this computer. He's done all of that so far. To all of the movies, and now we're getting another movie that we haven't watched yet.
All of a sudden, there's a movie we haven't watched, and I'm sitting here going...
We should have seen this like 15 minutes ago.
Right. I'm sitting here going, there are still films that he hasn't watched. He's been working on this for weeks, and it's like, doesn't he know how to do research? I thought he was a true crime author.
That's not the only thing he doesn't know how to do. He also doesn't know how to turn on a fucking light in his own house.
Yes, that's also true. But, I mean, these are short films, very short films. You scan them first, you look for obvious connections, then you go in bit by bit, zooming in with your magical computer and print off pictures of Mr. Boogie. Also, all these Post-it notes everywhere, and he hasn't even watched all the movies?
Right. Also, the jump scares in this movie,
that's an issue.
And also jump cuts. There are these jump cuts that are just here randomly. Would have been creepy.
Would have been creepy by itself just to watch a little kid, or well, I guess we didn't know it was a kid at that point, just to watch somebody push a lawnmower over somebody else's face. Yeah, that's creepy enough by itself.
Do we have to have the Wilhelm scream?
Right.
I mean, it's not obviously actually the Wilhelm scream, but it might as well be.
It might as well be, right.
If I was a professor at the University of Horror, you bet your ass that you would lose a full letter grade for every fucking jump scare in your horror movie, and this movie has more than enough to flunk it
unless
forever.
You were doing like a very specific
a deconstruction of the jump scare.
No, I was gonna say one of those assignments where like you tell them that they're going to go and they're going to make a film like just with jump scares, like that's going to be like, it's going to be a schlocky jump scare movie or something. My other issue with the lawnmower, and this is a problem that I have, that is like a personal problem too, so I can't reconcile it with this movie.
We need to say hi to Vincent D'Onofrio before he disappears.
Oh, hi Vincent.
Hi, Vincent D'Onofrio.
I like you.
You didn't have to do anything. This was the easiest paycheck you ever got.
It was. He just Skyped in.
You literally phoned in your performance.
Literally.
A video phone, but you phoned it in.
Phoned it in. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Anyways, yeah, so the little girl, we know it's the kids put in these, doing the murdering in these films. And so it's a very small girl with a yellow raincoat who pushes the lawnmower over her family members' faces and to kill them. Mm-hmm. We have specifically talked about in the previous scene why the fact that these murders don't require physical strength. Like we've got the hanging from the tree, but using the weight of cutting the branch to pull people into the air, et cetera, et cetera. And knowing that there were drugged people also, so that we can presume Mr. Boogie didn't physically have to do anything. Well, the deputy and him presumed that it was because it was an old man or something and he wasn't able to physically do the murders anymore, so that's why he did them like this. But we know that it's because Mr. Boogie can't physically do anything except for film all the stuff before the kids do the filming. But besides that, he can't physically do anything. It's the kids who have to do all of the murdering.
Them. Right.
And so it all has to be kid-friendly murdering, like stuff that they can manage to do by themselves. And to this day, I have still never mastered the art of starting those old push mowers. And as a kid,
that is a great point.
No matter how many times I mowed the lawn, my dad always had to start the push mower for me every single time.
That is an excellent point. Here he is walking in again, and the projector's going, and it's just going by itself. The kids aren't around watching it, which is what they should be doing.
Every time. I actually had a note the first time we hit one of those scenes, with the walking in on the movie already playing in his office while he's not in the office.
There's a huge chunk of this movie as well that repeats the same pattern over and over again, which is he's doing research in his office. He hears a scary noise. He goes and explores without turning any fucking lights on. And only one of those times does he have the excuse that the power went out.
Yeah,
but he does
never reconcile that in any way.
This right here, what he's doing right now with the baseball bat, is at least the fourth time. It's got to be at least three, maybe the fourth time that he's done this in this movie.
Creep around the house and
just creep around the house in the dark without turning lights on.
So the walking into the office and seeing the film running thing, we have been given hints over and over and over that his kids are going to wind up watching this stuff. And I actually had this note in here where I was like, this is the only real tension building that worked in the movie for me, was waiting to see his kids walk in on the gruesomeness. And when I rewatched this movie for the first time, I remembered in utter certainty that we were going to get a moment where we saw the kids, or at least the daughter, sitting there watching the film. And when I first saw these scenes, the first time he walks into his office with the stuff playing, I was like, oh, this is it. Oh, it's not it. It's not it. Wow, they're doing a really great job building this tension. And then again, and then again, and we never see it because it never actually happens. And I was so positive. Because they build the tension for it so well. And then at the end of the movie, I'm going to come back and explain why it's a really big sin and not just a blue ball sin.
Let's talk about the slow-mo ghosts.
Yes, let's talk
because we're in a
about
scene
them
right now where he's walking around and he's not seeing the ghost, but the little kid ghosts. There's another letter grade down. There you go.
Another letter grade.
I think the movie's already failed.
It failed a long time
ago for different reasons. But the slow-mo ghosts are a cool idea. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh fuck, that's kind of creepy and cool. Like the idea itself is kind of creepy and cool. That is wasted and poorly utilized because there isn't enough action in this scene, and the scene is too fucking dark to differentiate Ellison's normal movement from the ghost's slow-mo. Like this right here, he's in total shadow, and you can only barely tell that he's moving in normal speed. Normal-mo, if you will. No-mo. And the ghost is moving in slow-mo. I mean, that scene would be so much more effective if he like saw the ghost and was backing up, and you could see like, you know, these subtle little movements as he's, you know, jerking the bat around and he's shaking or scared, and you can obviously see that he's moving in
but he's
normally.
Walking so slowly that it's just not a big enough contrast.
Also, imagine if the lights were on and
how much creepier would that be?
And you just saw the ghost in full brightness.
Well, I mean, think about that scene in The Sixth Sense where the mom walks back in and all the cabinet doors are open. The first time we saw that thing, and it's in broad daylight, and it's terrifying. Some of the best scenes in horror movies, the most terrifying scenes, are the ones that happen in broad daylight because it's unsettling to see that.
If you can pull that shit off in broad daylight, I think one of the greatest examples to me, one of the most terrifying things, is the last shot of Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the sun is coming up and you've got Leatherface just thrashing in the middle of this road with the sun behind him in perfect daylight, and you can see in horrible detail this, you know, leather mask that he's got on his face and how gross and disgusting he looks, and there's nothing obscured by shadow, there's nothing hidden. It's because you can see it that it's scary.
That last shot that we had of the little girl, of his daughter lying in bed with her eyes open, would have been frightening by itself, but it went too far. It took it a step too far. Like if we had just had the shot where it shows he walks in and he checks on his daughter and no, it's okay. She's in bed. It's okay. And then we pan over and we realize, fuck, it's not okay. She's lying there with her eyes open, terrified.
Because she knows something.
Right.
Right.
That, if we had just cut right there, then it would have been this great creepy moment. But instead we've got to pan over and see that she's painted pictures of kids hanging on her bedroom
not
wall.
Only painted, not only painted pictures of the family hanging, painted pictures of the family hanging, and a portrait of Mr. Boogie, and she's sitting there next to the portrait, and then she does
the ghost girl.
The ghost girl
sitting
the ghost
there.
girl. I think it's Stephanie is her name.
Yeah.
And then she does the little shh thing.
Yeah.
And by the time you're done with that scene, you've rolled your eyes so hard that you've given yourself a brain aneurysm.
Right, and then you can't continue to watch the movie because you have to go to the hospital.
And that's the scariest thing that'll happen to you that day.
That would be the scariest thing that probably happened to you in your life if you had
true.
a brain aneurysm, actually.
And in that way, Sinister wins. A+.
Does it give you a brain aneurysm?
4 stars.
But
this is the scene I was talking about before on the sofas where we get like a long trucking shot and God damn it. Deputy so-and-so's performance kind of devolves, and comes apart right before your very eyes. But you'll see it. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about the fact that it was during the Skype in with Professor Jonas that I realized that was the moment where I really, really realized that this movie is never, ever, ever, ever going to leave this house. Until the ending when we do leave the house for like 5 seconds.
Well, they did make the movie for what, $3 million?
$3 million. He Skypes with the professor and I can suddenly feel the budget, like it's suddenly tangible to me. And I know we're here because it's cheap, not because we must be here. And
right.
That's the kind of thing. I'm sure there's some kind of argument out there for creating a sense of confinement so that we can deepen our audience's belief in the protagonist's spiraling madness. I'm sure that that you can sit here and go, well, he's locked in the house and we feel locked in the house too because we haven't left this house the entire movie. And it's just to show you the whole, crazy author, all work and no play make Jack.
Yeah, The Shining.
Adult,
right.
Yeah. Like so.
You're giving the movie way too much credit.
Like,
with the,
well,
but,
right.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying is that's what I want to do. That's where I want to stretch it to as someone who's analyzing the film. But every time I start to think like that, I just back up and I'm like, it's too shallow. This movie is too shallow for that. And the reality of it is that they had a budget of $3 million and made almost $80 million off this movie. And when I can see those numbers like that, when I can see the strings so easily like that, it just makes me frustrated. It makes me pissed off at the movie.
Yeah, I understand that. I absolutely understand that. But yeah, he's in this scene right here. We've got Ellison talking to Deputy so-and-so about the Stevensons who used to live here. And he made this, there's a whole scene where he makes the connection that the Stevensons used to live in the house that one of the other families was murdered in before they moved to this house. And of course it ends up being like a chain of events, which I'll talk about when it gets to that point. I did want to say that the kid, what's his name? The kid that's in this movie that plays Trevor, I don't know the actor's name, but he looks kind of like Eller Coltrane from Boyhood. And of course, Ethan Hawke played the father in Boyhood, which do you know anything about Richard Linklater's Boyhood?
Yeah, you've talked about it before. The one that they filmed that took them like 15 years to film
12.
or whatever.
It took 12 years. It took 12 years to make it. And that's the most interesting thing about that movie. I'm not really a fan, sue me. But because Ethan Hawke is the father in that movie and the kid in this movie kind of looks like Eller Coltrane, I'd like to think that this is maybe one of the shittier chapters in Boyhood that was just cut out of the have it's like, and this is the part of this young man's life where they lived in a haunted house and all got murdered.
The end. Would it have been a better movie?
No. Boyhood's still better than Sinister. But yeah, I mean, some of the I do like how this movie's shot, but some of this lighting is a little bit intense. Like this lighting right here, that's really obviously like lit from below horror movie lighting. You can see in his eye, in the reflection of his eyeball, you can see the light that they've put under his chin.
Yeah. We get some comments here about like his drinking and stuff, and one of my things with this is that we really haven't seen him drinking that much.
Yeah, he does drink. He drinks a lot, but we don't see it ever be a problem.
Right, and we're making a big deal out of it here to even mention it, and it's kind of silly. Like we saw him light up a cigarette and perhaps got the impression that he was even a step further down the line now. But I think it's just a little much to presume. Okay, that picture, I wish that I had caught it before. That picture that she drew, because I don't know if we're going to look at it again, the thing that they should be the most upset about right now, it's not even that they should be upset about it. They should be freaking out because she painted that picture. Because she's the age she is and she has such mature understanding of like proportion and stuff that adult artists who I know don't.
Did they see the unicorns? They should know what her skill level's at. It's displayed all over her bedroom.
That picture that she painted though on the wall is just ridiculous because I mean, you can see the texture in her dress. It's like a rough sketch done by a professional artist, and all they did was just put like a smiley face on the mouth so that you would know it was done by a kid.
Well, it was because she was inspired by the devil, and the devil, I mean, through the devil you can do all things. Can we be done, though, with the kids drawing creepy shit cliche now, please and thank you?
Can we also be done with children having imaginary ghost friends?
Oh my God. And parents like not believing them despite like obviously weird creepy shit happening all the time.
Well, and my more frustrated thing with this kind of trope in these movies is all these movies presume that children are idiots, that children are just completely stupid because they presume that a kid would make friends with another kid who is in their house who might even be incredibly creepy looking, and totally not freak out about, one, that child being in their fucking house. Why is this child in my house? And two, no one else being able to see that child. An average child would not freak out about that. If I was that age and there was a kid in my house who my mom could not see, I would be losing my mind.
Yeah.
I would be talking about it nonstop to my mother.
It's like, she's like right here, Mom. Like, I'm not even playing. Like, either you get me help or you believe me because, like, she's here.
There is another person living in this house. And all these movies presume that the kid would just go on laughing and playing with their ghost friend and relaying cryptic messages to their parents and not really being surprised that no one else can see them.
I do want to talk about this scene right now while it's happening. They're arguing yet again because, you know, their little girl is drawing pictures of the previous little girl that lived here and that, you know, is missing and possibly murdered and all this kind of stuff. And I do think that the issue that they're arguing about is a complex one. Mm-hmm. As Tracy, his wife, is now finding out that they live in the stigmatized property because that's something that she didn't know before. Simultaneously, she's learning that her daughter found out about the murders. Mm-hmm. These are two things that she's dealing with right now. However, the argument plays out as though the only real issue is that they're living in the house. She doesn't, I don't think she even really cares how the kids found out about the house's history because it's not really touched on.
Nope.
Despite the establishment of rules about staying out of Ellison's office, which of course the movie has already forgotten about.
Right. The movie does not care about those rules anymore. The movie is over that. Siding with Dad in this conversation in one part was, what's the big deal about moving into a murder house? Like, right. I mean, yes, you need to tell your wife.
Yes, of course.
That's hands down, duh. You need to tell her, but it's not a big deal.
It's not, yeah. It's
been there, done that.
Yeah. We have been there and done that.
We have.
We've talked about it on the show before.
And, and it definitely was not a big deal for us.
At least this argument that they're in, at least this scene has a purpose. We do get to the core of Ellison's character, and that is that he is a very selfish person deep down.
Yes.
And I do appreciate that the argument doesn't feel one-sided. I do see both sides of their argument.
Yes.
I know we say, what's the big deal about moving into a murder house, but he did keep it from
Of course. No, the lying to the wife thing, that's obviously
a big boo-boo. And she said,
no,
she says here that she just said the line, or the little girl asked her mom, did I get Daddy in trouble? Or I hope I didn't get Daddy in trouble or whatever. And she says, no, Daddy got Daddy in trouble. And it's like, yes, Daddy got Daddy in trouble. But yeah, I can at least appreciate that. I can also appreciate, this is a minor detail, but I always appreciate it when I see it in movies. He uses a computer like people use computers.
Yes,
he uses a real computer, whether or not Apple, dumped a little money into this movie, which they may very well have. They probably did. But he uses a MacBook, and it looks like a MacBook and operates like a MacBook, and he opens Safari and uses Google. Like, he does it like everyone else does it.
Right. We aren't using like pretend search
internet
and stuff. Right. Okay. So.
And, here we have another scene of apologies.
Yeah. She's come
unspoken
back to
apology.
Yeah.
Like I said, it happens in patterns. They yell at each other, and she apologizes. They yell at her. They yell at each other. She apologizes over and over and over again. Although he is sleeping alone, so.
So there are a number of things in this movie that I don't know if I'll have time to touch on all of them, but that I was getting really frustrated about while I was watching this movie when it comes to being a writer and the image that this movie tries to present of being a writer. He does say some shitty shit in that last scene. His specific line was, "What do you expect me to do? Teach? Edit journalism textbooks?" And I'm like, yeah, yepers.
Yeah,
yep,
what's wrong with that?
That's it. That's what we expect you to do. You think you're better than that? And the whole spiel about, don't you understand that writing is what gives my life meaning, doesn't change anything. Like 99% of the authors out there would say the exact same thing. And they prove it by continuing to write while teaching or editing those journalism textbooks because they don't make jack shit off their writing.
The people who really care about writing and it really does mean everything to them so much so that they want to make a career out of it, make a career out of it somehow.
Right.
Somehow.
Yes.
And they might end up in technical writing. They might end up in journalism. They might end up in editorial. They might, who knows? But they make it work if they really care about it.
I may have a personal bone to pick with this,
and no,
perhaps
but it is a legitimate bone.
But because that's kind of exactly what I'm doing right now. Is, oh my gosh, I'm teaching because I want to be a writer. So
did he? Okay, so the projector's gone, and he just had to wave his hand through the area that it was just to make sure
the projector was gone. And the thing is, I don't want to say all this and just say I'm just like bitching about the character himself, which is silly because that would be my emotional reaction to what they created. Very possibly even the emotional reaction that the movie intended for me to feel is to be irritated at him. But I feel like this movie presents authors in a generally fictional light. The idea that he had one New York Times bestseller and has lived off it for 10 years with a wife that doesn't work and 2 kids to feed.
Yeah, right.
Is creating a false image that the movie then backs up by having this fake author verbally belittle those who choose to teach or edit to sustain their family while still trying to do what they love.
Yes.
And I did, if we have time for it later, then I did do a lot of like statistics research on what potentially you could make off of one New York Times bestseller. Did you know that you only have to, some weeks out of the year, you could have only sold a couple thousand books and be a New York Times bestseller?
That's amazing.
But it's true.
Well, I mean, everybody's a New York Times bestseller. So when I see like
that's
all of the
Twitter,
books on the bookshelf at a bookstore saying that they're a New York Times bestseller, I'm like, okay, that doesn't mean anything.
No, it really doesn't mean anything.
Like if something says that it's like a I don't know, what's a Newbery? Mm-hmm. That's a thing,
right. If it wins an award or something.
If it wins a Newbery, I'm like, okay, well, that's something.
Right. No, but a
if
bestseller.
If it was in Oprah's book club.
And Boogeyman literally just jumped in front of the camera. Thank you.
The only argument that you could have that could forgive that, the only one is that he did it in front of Ellison and he was doing it to scare Ellison, but then he does it at the very end of the movie before the credits come.
Yeah.
And he does it clearly for the audience.
Yeah. But the research I did basically also explained that the way things work now especially with indie authors and people selling their books together as packages, as sets, like with other books, and then still selling it for only like 99 cents. You could be on a bestseller list and still only make like $100. Wow. Is basically how it works out. Now, traditional publishing is a little bit different, but even with traditional publishing, being on a bestseller list for like 1 week, maybe a good week might be about $30,000 or $40,000. I
just want to say I really like this segment of the score.
Yes, I do.
I like this score a lot. This part of the score. Apparently, the score was kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of things that the director Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill found. Like it's not. I don't think it's one person that did the music. I think it's a lot of stuff that they just bought the rights for, which is interesting.
Yeah, I like this portion of it right here.
It usually doesn't happen that way. But yeah, I really like this segment of the music.
Is he wearing his same sweater again?
It must smell like shit,
oh
right?
My God, it must.
I mean, lying to you about the house is one thing, but your husband smells
just awful,
like a paper mill. I mean, he's got to.
Professor Jonas let us know that the symbol in the movies isn't a pentagram. Thank you, Professor Jonas.
Thanks, we can see that.
Doesn't everyone, their great-grandmother, know what a pentagram looks like by now? No? Yes? But anyways, we also learned from him about this demon, Mr. Boogeyman guy. They're calling him Bagul in this movie. Is that right?
Yeah, it's really convenient. I didn't look up anything. Is Bagul a real thing?
No. No.
Bagul is of course not a real thing. It's made up, and fortunately, his name includes the word ghoul, so that you can kind of.
Oh my gosh.
Fuck it.
Yeah, they're saying he's a Babylonian deity who is also called the Eater of Children, who needs souls of humans to survive, and he lures or tricks children away from the physical world and traps them in another world to absorb their souls over time. So you can basically do a wiki search on like Babylonian and Assyrian demonology and probably find some kind of inspiration for this thing, but this guy is totally made up. There were some Semitic tribes who worshipped Moloch and sacrificed children to him, and there was an African god called
how hard is it to just pick an actual
Right?
demon or deity that did the things, or that supposedly, according to real folklore, did the things that
or
you say,
at least did something similar. At
Yeah.
least, like, the thing is that like a really shallow Google search that I was doing, I didn't spend much time on it, but basically what I was coming up with is there isn't off the top of people's heads a demon who eats the souls of children, but I'm sure there's something like that out there.
Okay, as Tennessee, before he's gone from the movie, as Tennesseans, we have an obligation to recognize Fred Thompson. Fred Thompson plays the sheriff in this movie.
That's the popo here?
He's the popo. He's the sheriff who actually represented Tennessee in the U.S. Senate from 1994 to 2003.
Oh, really?
He was a senator, a U.S. senator.
Huh.
Turned actor.
Interesting.
But we are meant to believe in this scene that the sheriff of this town is not only working this late, but out on the road setting up speed traps this late at night. The sheriff of the town.
The sheriff. Man.
Do you believe that any sheriff anywhere, number one, works this late as the sheriff, works this late, and number two, does like routine traffic stops and sets up speed traps and shit like that?
It would have to be an unbelievably small town. There would have to be
Either
like two other cops that he worked with.
Or a really, really like understaffed or slow night or something.
I don't know. It's pretty hard to buy.
Yeah, it is very.
Anyways, all I was talking about with the Bagul stuff was that they're really.
But to be fair, if you're a sheriff of a small town or any town, and you still set up speed traps, or you know someone, and if you have someone in your family that's a sheriff, please write in.
Yeah, tell us.
Because
Set us in
I'm
our
not
place.
saying that we're right about anything that we
ever say
on this podcast.
That's
ever.
the safest bet.
I'm not so presumptuous to think that I'm infallible in what I say, but it seems a little strange. So if we're wrong, set us right by all means.
Yeah, I really don't have anything more to say about the demon stuff. Just he's not real. There are some other gods out there and demons that do stuff where kids were sacrificed to them. But actually, someone on the internet made a joke about if you want to read about like child sacrifices, then you just need to go back to the Old Testament.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
They're like, oh, a god that sacrifices children? Well,
how awesome would that be if you like get through one of these movies like this where you've got like some smart character that keeps popping up to give you like little bits of information as you need it, and you're like, what is this terrible entity that's like killing children or requires sacrifices of children and all these horrible things, and then like 2/3 of the way through the movie, it's like, okay, I found what you're looking for. It's this ancient Judaic deity known as Jehovah. And you're like, oh, well, shit.
wow, okay.
The gloves are off, I guess. Doing research for this movie, I found no less than like 6 different spellings for Bagul.
Yeah, I did too.
And for a movie where that just made up the name of the demon, you'd think that, there would just be one spelling, whatever the writer wrote it as.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of led me to some wrong places too, because at first I was like, oh, if there are multiple spellings, then that means that this is based off of like some
Of course,
other
'cause
actual.
been,
But
right,
no,
it's
no,
been the word has been transliterated from other languages in order for us to read it. So, based on whoever transliterated it, then it might come out differently.
right. But no, the answer is no. This is just fake.
It's just fake and
It's
spelled
just
a
fake
thousand
fiction.
different ways for no fucking reason. Even though the word was written for the first time 3 years ago, right? So we've got our final scene with Vincent D'Onofrio, so we can say bye to Vincent. Bye, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Finally, here at the end of this movie.
Did you think that like his assistant running around in the back of the scene and him like calling her by name? Her name is Jessica. He called her by name. Did you think that was weird? Like, what was the purpose of her running around in the back of the scene?
I don't know. And when we say assistant, is that like his TA or something? Because what the hell is she doing there that late at night?
I got the impression that like maybe it was Vincent D'Onofrio's idea, and he's like, maybe I'll just have an assistant, running around behind me because she's staying here late because I'm banging her. Like maybe like I've got a sexual relationship with my TA, and like, that's the only reason she's around. And when she comes and brings me tea, I look at her and I say, "Thank you, Jessica," and I look in her eyes, and you just kind of get that character from me that I'm like a cool professor, and I wear like Pink Floyd shirts, but I'm also like banging my TA, and it's like and I know a lot about
really
like occult
disgusted
murders.
right now. Just your whole spiel here is not.
I'm sorry, but. I would not be surprised if that was like a conversation that happened behind the scenes. Like, can we get one of the PAs back here to just kind of walk around and act like they're my TA? Do you have a young hot one? Yeah, like that. Yeah, that one right there.
Oh my god, I hate you so much right now.
Vincent D'Onofrio, if you're listening.
Please write in and tell my husband he's an idiot and that's not what was happening. I actually really like him.
Yourself,
I like
sir.
him as an actor, so
I do too.
So
I really like his performance in Daredevil.
yes, that's actually what I'm referring to specifically.
I love his performance in Daredevil because I can't get a bead on him.
Yeah, I can't decide if I hate him or love him, and
Yeah,
it's just this
I like-
wonderful, awesome, horrible, frustrating thing.
In this movie, when I can't get a bead on Deputy So-and-so's performance, it's because it's cut together from a lot of like really shoddy performances mixed in with some pretty good performances.
Right, but no, when I'm talking about Daredevil,
It's different when it's like, I don't know if I like or hate the performance because it's so weird.
It's so weird.
It is such a weird performance.
God, I love it. I love it. Oh, anyways, we have also we've come to the biggest hole in this movie. He's told the children that they have been exposed. Professor Jonas just told our protagonist.
So-and-so?
No, he actually had.
Let's be real, Professor So-and-so.
Yes, Professor So-and-so. He told our protagonist here that children that have been exposed to the images of Bagul are especially vulnerable. Okay. We were so scared that this guy's kids were going to walk in on these films. We had all these moments in the movie where the film was running and the kid could have been sitting there, but no one was sitting there. We built up all this family tension with the wife reminding him to lock the doors. The kids seeing the image was a part of the mythology of these kids getting possessed.
We even get a hip-hop montage that ends with him locking the door of his office because it's part of the things that he's supposed to do. He has to remember to lock the office.
And the little girl, to our knowledge, never sees the film. She never sees them. I would applaud this movie for just allowing us to put the pieces together ourselves, that one of those times we walked in on the film running and no one was there. His daughter actually had been in the room watching just a moment before. But this movie has had to spell out every other tiny, stupid, brainless connection for us through dialogue. So all I can come to is the conclusion that they just didn't think about the little girl needing to walk in on the films while they were playing and how well that would fit into the family structure they had created along with the whole possession plot.
I don't know why Ellison didn't figure out that it was the kids that were doing the killing after he literally saw all of them in the attic of the house. He saw all of them.
Right.
He walked upstairs and they've got some, crusty, crackly makeup on or something.
Yeah.
But he saw every one of the missing kids up in the attic of his house.
And he's been taking pictures of them and circling the pictures so he knows what their faces look like.
Yeah, exactly. And
Where are you? In the
this
attic.
In this scene right here, he's watching these. I don't know, Bagul's director's cuts of these
Right.
movies. I don't know what the fuck. It's very nice of him to give him the special extended edition of his movies.
Yeah.
But it makes a great stocking stuffer. But he acts as though this is when he's just figuring it out. It's like, oh, it was the kids the whole time. And it's like, dude, you've seen them. You already saw them. You should know this.
It's the missing kids, he says.
Says it aloud.
Duh. Thank you.
He does that a couple of times in the movie. Like the first time that he realized,
writes it down or says it aloud.
he either writes it down, writes a dumb question down, or says it aloud. Like when he found out that the Stevensons actually lived in the house before, the murder house from before, he was like, they actually lived in the house before. Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I
What
have
is he projecting this up onto, by the way?
I don't know.
That was just ready and waiting.
Who even cares? I want to say the last thing that I like about this movie. I like the irony of Ellison moving back into his old house to escape his new haunted house when this old house looks more like a big old ghost house than the new house that he lived in. Like I like how he escapes to the more cliche big mansion that would be haunted.
And the size of this mansion, that one New York Times bestseller must have been on the charts for like a year.
Treated him real good. He finally took off the sweater.
Reanimator green liquid.
Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Was it green liquid or were they like little pills?
No, it's green liquid because we see it in some of the films. There's actually some shots in the films where we see like a jug and stuff with green liquid in it. The pool party one, you can see it pretty well.
Let's talk about Bagul's the way his methodology, I guess, of how he possesses these kids, the way he goes about doing these murders and the series of murders. So we find out from Deputy So-and-so that you make the mistake when you move away from the house that you think is haunted, when you move away from the murder house.
So would they have been okay if they had just stayed in
That's
the
my
murder
question. I don't know. Maybe they would have been okay if they had just stayed in the house because he doesn't actually influence the kids to murder their families until they've moved away from the house.
Right.
So it creates this chain where it's like, you move into a house where this terrible murder happened and you find out, and then you move to your new house and that's where you get killed. And then the person that moves into that house that you get killed in
That's
does
the
the
one
same
who's
thing.
gonna-
And you keep
right.
going because that's what they found out about all these murders is they happened in chains. But the demon, Bagul, scares you away from the murder house and only kills you in your new house after you move, which is weird. So what is the purpose of this? If Bagul did this with every family that moved into any of these houses after, like any of these houses ever again, then that would make sense because the victims would multiply exponentially over time. Every family that moves into one of these houses and then moves away,
And then the people who move into their houses, right.
Then they curse the next house that they move into, and the house that they just moved from was also already cursed.
Right, yeah.
So it just keeps moving.
No,
right?
I think the mojo only happens one time.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
We get the impression that he haunts
Why is
only
there
the next family to move into one of these houses, and it just goes in a straight line, one family at a time, which is kind of pointless.
all this blood everywhere, all over the walls here? How did she get this much blood around here? All I can think of is that there were some little plastic cups that were next to her parents' bodies. And did you see she put down tarps? She didn't put down tarps in her bedroom when she painted on her walls, but she put down tarps beneath her parents' bodies before she murdered them. I'm guessing the little plastic cups were to collect the blood so that she could then splatter it on the wall and paint.
I mean, like, I get that. Is that a dick? Did she draw a dick? That looks like a dick and balls right there.
Is that like a bat?
Oh, no. Okay, I was looking at the larger picture. If you look at the larger picture, it looks like a dick and balls.
Oh, good. Yeah, I guess she saved their blood in cups so she could paint. Oh, there was a unicorn.
I think the better ending to this movie is her killing her family, and we see her painting the walls with their blood cut to credits.
Yeah,
that's a better ending than
that would have been nice, like with a paintbrush and everything, like straight up just painting with their blood. That would have been cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like that the kids line up so orderly by height. For us, the ghost children there.
They're very thoughtful.
Mm-hmm. They are very thoughtful.
I don't know what he's projecting on, but it's got a frame of some kind. Mm-hmm. So it's just a frame with nothing in it, I guess.
Oh, and in case we didn't get it, here we go. She drew a picture for us so we'd understand.
Yeah, well, we're at the end of not a good movie.
No, we're going to get one more jump scare. Wait. Aren't you really excited?
I'm so excited.
When is
about
it going to
the jump
happen?
scare.
It's like those YouTube videos where it has like a picture of a car scenically driving down the road and you just know that some stupid thing's about to scream in your earbuds. That's what this movie's doing right now.
So, according to C. Robert Cargill, I don't really like the design of Bagul as a character we're seeing here, who looks kind of like a clown or something. I don't know, with weird, weird hair. I'm not sure. I don't know. Michael Jackson hair. Is that kind of what we're supposed to be getting at? Is that like with the kids thing? And I don't know.
Oh, really? That's where you went?
I don't know. But he was originally intended to look more like Willy Wonka, like the version played by Johnny Depp, apparently. And after
house painting. That's what they called that one.
Cute, punny. But apparently this idea was shot down for not being scary enough or whatever. It was too silly or something. So they found an image on Google Images that Cargill bought the rights to. And that's what they based Bagul on, is just an image they found on Google Images. Like, oh, that's kind of scary looking. That's literally what they did.
Well, again, surface level. Shallow.
And the last, shot of the movie is we see the box with the new film in it that says house painting, because she painted the walls with, her parents' blood. Fine, whatever. And then we get our last jump scare. And this is a note to all would-be horror filmmakers out there. When you put a jump scare in your movie, 9 times out of 10, if your intention is to make the audience think, wow, that was fucking scary, what you're actually doing to me and people like me, because I feel like I keep the company of people who think like me, and we all kind of think this way about jump scares, it's that I don't think, wow, that was scary. I think every time it happens, and sometimes I say it aloud, I think, man, I fucking hate this movie. I hate this movie. That's what it makes me think. Now, I don't feel that strongly about Sinister. I think Sinister's got some good ideas. I think it's got some creepy stuff in it. I like the way it's shot. I like some of the performances. I don't think it's an utter failure on every
agreed.
level. I think it's largely inoffensive. It's, I guess I could say, fine, mostly.
Yeah. I think it's better than Insidious, which came out around the same time, and I always mix them up.
I do too. I think it's probably better than Insidious, and I think I like The Conjuring better than this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, The Conjuring I think is actually a well done horror movie. I have issues with it, but I think it's pretty well done.
This is pretty well regarded as a horror movie.
It's
and that
really
kind of,
sad.
That kind of confounds me, because I mean, it's not like awful. But it's not good.
If you want a good horror movie, then you go watch The Babadook.
The Babadook is so good.
Starry Eyes was really good too.
Starry Eyes was excellent as well. So if you want good horror movies from the past couple of years, and of course if you follow this kind of thing, you've already heard The Babadook is excellent. What you may not have heard is that Starry Eyes is also actually really good.
Yeah.
Go check out Starry Eyes.
Starry Eyes was a lot of fun.
The 2 big ones from the past couple of years that I really dug. But yeah, do you have any final thoughts on Scott Derrickson's Sinister?
No.
And are you going to see the sequel? The only reason this qualifies for this.
Am I going to see the sequel? You're asking me if I'm going to see the sequel?
Would you pay theater ticket
price?
No,
of course not. Well, I mean, if I didn't have to pay for 2 people and then have to deal with you bitching about it the whole time. But that's not going to
exactly
happen.
What would happen.
So no, I won't be seeing it in the theaters. But yeah, I mean, I'll watch it because I watch everything that's horror. So yeah, I'll see it. I won't be super. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna suck more than this movie. It would be unbelievable if it was a better movie than this movie was. That's not gonna happen. So, but I'll see it.
Okay.
Whatever.
Well, I guess
that wraps it up for Popcorn Poops today. Don't forget to find us at our website at popcornpoops.com. Follow us on Twitter or on Facebook, and subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher. Get in the conversations on our forums, and please leave us a review. Let me see if I can say it so you can do it.
That's all right. I've fucked up A little bit today too. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, please leave us a review because we're out
Marbles
of
in
them
my
now.
mouth.
We don't have any more reviews anymore.
And we like to read them.
Yes, last episode was the last review that we had in stock of our reviews to read from. So if you write one right now, then you're probably going to be the first one to do it, and then we're going to read it next week.
Not next week.
Well, okay.
In 2 weeks.
Sorry, in 2 weeks. If you also want to help out the show in a different way and get a free audiobook, then please go to audibletrial.com/popcornpoops and sign up for a free trial. You'll be able to keep the audiobook, and it helps us out. This week, we have a Popcorn Poops podcast. God, Dustin, the alliteration. Jeez.
You're welcome.
Popcorn Poops podcasting pal. Every week we have a Popcorn Poops podcasting pal, and this week it is the Projection Booth podcast.
That's right. Go check them out. We've got they've got a little ad after the show, so stick around for that.
Yep. Next episode, however, we are taking a week off. So I lied to you a second ago when I said we'd read it next episode, because we are only going to be doing 4 episodes a month from now until the foreseeable future, because we are very busy. But that means you've still got time right now to make those requests for next month's first episode.
That's right. For the listener request month, the deadline. This is your last warning on the podcast that you will get, because by the time the next podcast comes out, it's already going to be way too late. You got a couple of days from now. Midnight, 12 a.m. on Thursday, August 27th is the deadline for your movie request. So if you have one, go to our forums, check out the submission guidelines. I broke it down at the beginning of this episode, so you should know by now. But please do that, because after Thursday, that's it. You've run out of time. So we would really appreciate it if you do that.
And we are looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun month.
Yep.
So send us some more requests. Let us have a good pile of stuff to choose from, and also get us some reviews, please.
Yes, we'd really appreciate that.
Otherwise, I think that's it. So goodbye for now.
Take care. We are the Popcorn Poops.
Hi, I'm Mike White.
And I'm Rob St. Mary.
And we're the hosts of the Projection Booth podcast.
If you haven't heard of the Projection Booth, that's okay.
But we think it's time that you have.
We've been doing this for over 3 years now.
And we think we're doing a pretty good show.
Every week we look at a different film and put it in context.
We try to bring you interviews with the people behind the films.
Or experts on a subject matter covered in the film.
We don't specialize in any one particular genre or type of film.
We try to examine every aspect of cinema.
From every corner of the globe.
Even at 3 years, we barely just scratched the surface.
But we're ready. We're ready for you to listen to us.
That's right. Now's the time to give us a shot.
Download us through our free smartphone app.
Or through Stitcher, iTunes, Geek Juice Radio, Jackalow.
Or our website.
Projection-booth.com.
We'll keep making great shows.
Now it's your turn to listen to them.